All right, today we're going to trace the absolutely terrifying journey of a parasite. It's a journey that takes it from a tiny fly into the human body and then all the way back again, and it leaves blindness in its wake. This is the story of river blindness, and it all kicks off with just a single, seemingly harmless bite. I mean, think about that for a second. It sounds almost impossible, right? How can one simple bite from a black fly lead to total blindness? Years later, a person's entire world just goes dark. So that's the central mystery we're going to unravel together. How does this devastating chain of events actually work?
So first things first, let's just get a sense of how big this problem really is. The official name is onchocerciasis, but we're talking about something that is far from a rare disease. In fact, it's one of the main causes of blindness across huge parts of Africa, and even in some areas of the Americas. It's a massive public health crisis, and it's all tied to one very specific place: communities that live near fast-flowing rivers.
Okay, to really get a grip on this disease, we've got to meet the two main players. You could almost think of it like a biological drama. You've got a clear villain, this parasitic worm, and then you've got its getaway driver, the fly that carries it from one person to the next. So here it is, our main antagonist, Onchocerca volvulus. It's a kind of parasitic roundworm, and it is the one and only cause of river blindness. But here's the really critical detail you have to remember. Humans are its only host. That's right. Without us, its entire life cycle just stops. It hits a dead end. Now, get ready for this, because the sheer size of this parasite is just mind-blowing. When you think about diseases, you're probably picturing something microscopic, right? Well, this is different. The female worm can grow up to 50 centimeters long. That is half a meter, living coiled up inside the human body. The male is a lot smaller, yeah, but that female, she's basically a relentless biological factory. And here's the accomplice we mentioned, the vector that makes this whole thing possible. It's the female black fly. And this, right here, is exactly why it's called river blindness. See, these flies breed in fast-moving water, which means the communities who need those rivers to survive, they're the ones who are most at risk. Okay, so we've met our cast of characters. Now it's time to follow the journey. We're about to trace the parasite's incredibly complex and kind of genius life cycle. We'll see how it gets from a fly to a human, and then how it sets up its offspring to be picked up by another fly, starting the whole thing all over again. So here it is, the whole grimly efficient cycle laid out. It all kicks off when an infected fly bites a person and injects these tiny larvae into the skin. Now, for the next, year or so, these larvae are just growing, maturing into those massive adult worms we talked about. Then, the females release thousands of microscopic offspring. They're called microfilaria, and these little guys swarm right under the skin. And just like that, the trap is set. The next time a black fly bites that person, it sucks up those microfilaria, they develop inside the fly for about a week, travel up to its head, and boom. They're ready to infect the next human and keep this devastating cycle going. So you might be wondering, how does this infection actually turn into such a horrible disease? Well, here's the crucial part, and it's a bit of a twist. It's not actually the giant adult worms coiled up deep inside you that cause the most damage. Nope. The real problem is the millions of microscopic larvae, the microfilaria, as they migrate through the skin and, so tragically, into the eyes. This timeline really shows you just how sneaky this parasite is. I mean, for almost a full year after that first fly bite, a person could have absolutely no idea what's growing inside of them. The larvae are just quietly maturing into adults. It's not until about month 10 or so, when that first generation of microfilaria starts to spread, that you see the first signs, like rashes. You might also get something called eosinophilia, which is really just a fancy way of saying your body's producing a ton of a specific white blood cell. It's a huge red flag that your immune system is battling a parasite. It really is a silent invasion. And this is where it all leads. These are the devastating consequences. Your body's immune system goes to war with those swarms of microfilaria in the skin, and that battle causes this chronic inflammation, this insane itching and painful sores. But the absolute worst part, the real tragedy, is when those tiny larvae make their way into the eyes. They get trapped in the cornea and all those delicate tissues. The inflammation that follows causes extreme sensitivity to light, constant tearing, and then finally, as the eye gets more and more scarred and damaged, irreversible blindness. But, this story isn't just about the disease. For decades now, scientists and doctors have been fighting this thing, which brings up a huge question.
How in the world do you fight an enemy that can literally hide deep inside a person's body for more than a decade?
Well, figuring out if someone has it is part detective work, part lab work. Doctors look for those classic symptoms, right? Then they'll ask about a person's history, like, hey, have you lived near rivers where these black flies are common? And then, to be absolutely sure, they confirm it by finding those little microfilaria in a tiny sample of skin.
And this brings us to the single biggest challenge in treating river blindness. There's a drug called ivermectin that has been an absolute game changer. But, and this is a huge but, it has one critical limitation. It's fantastic at killing the little guys, the young larvae, but it does absolutely nothing to those massive adult worms, those factories that just keep churning out millions more larvae year after year for a decade or more.
So because of that huge challenge, you can't just rely on one thing. Controlling river blindness takes like a three-pronged attack. First, you've got to treat infected people with ivermectin to clear out all those circulating larvae and stop them from spreading it. Second, you have to go after the vector itself, control the black fly populations. And third, you have to help communities learn how to avoid getting bitten in the first place. And that leaves us with one final and really important question. If the source of the entire problem, that adult worm, can live for over a decade inside a person, totally untouchable by our best medicine, what does it actually take to stop this disease? Well, it means a relentless, long-term commitment. It means treating entire communities year after year after year just to keep suppressing the larvae and, hopefully, break that cycle of transmission. When it comes to the fight for sight, this is absolutely a marathon, not a sprint.